Good morning. This is Tuesday morning, and I am going to show you how to do the infamous double chocolate chip muffins. What have I done so far? I have the recipe. I've read it. I went through it to make sure I have all my ingredients here, and everything is ready to go before I even start. Make sure that I understand any of the terms that I need to follow. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure I have everything I need. Okay, what have I done already? I've preheated my oven to 350. It's very important when you're preheating, when you're baking small items, like cookies, cakes, pies, that kind of thing, muffins, cupcakes, that your oven is heated to the correct temperature, because they're only baked for a half an hour under. These like 25 minutes, cookies 10, 15 minutes, biscuits, same thing. And if the oven is not preheated to the right temperature, then the heat's fluctuating, like it's kind of blasting heat. So the outside might get kind of burnt, and the inside might not have time to have the heat penetrate. Some of the different chemical reactions that happen with the baked good and the heat doesn't happen, and you're going to have an inferior product. So it's very important that the oven is at the right temperature. We're going to use a muffin pan, and we are going to line, we're going to start this before we do our recipe, because we don't want to have to scramble for it or let the batter set. We're lining it with cupcake liners, muffin liners, basically parchment paper. They come in a lot of different sizes, and I absolutely love these for this kind of baked good. So I'm putting them in my muffin liner in here, and I'm going to set my muffin pan off camera while I'm doing this so that it's not cluttered, and my liner's off camera. Okay, so the first thing the recipe says is to preheat my oven, and in one of the bowls, I'm gonna take the smaller one, I am going to put my dry ingredients. So this is called the muffin method. It's also called the 2-bowl method, 2 bowls. So we're gonna put all the dry ingredients in one and the liquid ingredients in the other, and then we're gonna combine them. Remember, once you get everything wet, it's the leavening agent starts to react. So now, first thing I'm gonna do is my dry ingredients. We're gonna start out with our flour. For flour, our sugar, our baking soda, and remember, not to, ooh, I must have put this one away dirty. I did not, or that, or somebody else used it. Sorry. That's not good. Okay, so I am going to, I always check myself, 2 cups of flour. So when I used to have my class in here, I would have somebody kind of read the recipe out so that I would, 2 cups of flour, spoon it in, level it off, 1 cup, and 2 cups. Spoon it in and level it off. So this doesn't take a lot of flour. The yield is 12. So you get 12 muffins, 2 cups of flour. I'm going to put my flour over here so it's out of the way. The next dry ingredient on the recipe is baking powder. Here's my baking powder. Remember, baking powder is a leavening agent that has other things added to it. And it says 1 tablespoon of baking powder. That tells you right away that it's not baking soda, because you never put that much baking soda in the recipe. 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I'm leveling it off on the side of the can. 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Next thing is salt. I'm going to use the salt in the canister. In our class, I keep it in a mason jar with a lid, and it is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So you make sure that you find the 1/2 teaspoon. Just shake it because it self-levels. And the next thing is sugar, okay? Put out of my way. We're going to use white granulated sugar. If you're going to use, some recipes call for brown sugar, but they're a little different. So this is, how much sugar? 3/4 of a cup. So we're going to take the we're going to find the 1/4 cup. Here it is. And do it 3 times. Remember, sugar is self-leveling. 1, 2. Now you can see why muffins are not considered diet food. Put this over here so they're out of the way for now. And what did I do with the lid? Oh, there it is. Put the lid on. You don't want to accidentally knock it over or something. And cocoa powder. Cocoa powder. Now, cocoa powder is obviously chocolate. This is unsweetened. How much do we put in here? 3/4 a cup. So I get my 1/4 of a cup back, and we put in 3/4 of a cup. Now, cocoa powder, this is unsweetened, and it has kind of a, I don't know if you want to call it like a residue, like an oily residue, like it really sticks to everything. And it is very bitter. It's not like the cocoa powder, it's not like the cocoa stuff you make your drinks out of. I remember, I told this story before, snuck into my grandmother's kitchen, and I thought I would be really slick and I would have a big spoonful of her baking cocoa powder. And it was so nasty. And I had to like walk out of the kitchen smiling because she would have beat my little butt if she'd known I snuck into her kitchen and put a spoon in her cocoa powder. Okay, you're gonna stir this up. Probably should have used a bigger bowl. That's okay. Actually, I'm gonna transfer it to this. Because you'll see why in a minute. So I'm gonna stir this up. You want to just stir it until it's well blended, because you don't want any pockets of baking soda or salt or whatever. You don't want one of your muffins to taste like the baking powder or the salt when you're baking them. You want it to be evenly distributed amongst the mix. Okay, so now that's your dry bowl. In the other bowl, we're going to add all our liquid stuff. I'm just going to wipe this out. It doesn't really matter, it all goes to the same place. But we're going to add our liquid. So our liquid is going to be, we're going to melt some butter. Now, it's kind of odd this recipe does 2 things. Butter is really nice in these recipes, but let's see how much butter. 2 tablespoons. It's really nice, but the thing is butter gives a different quality. So a lot of times recipes will combine butter and oil. In fact, I do a lot in my baking because I just like the way it turns out. So I'm going to put this 2 tablespoons of butter. Notice I just cut the stick. Take the paper off. And I'm going to put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds. And that should melt it. Okay? Microwave 30 seconds. Stop. There, 30 seconds. Okay, while that's microwaving, I'm going to measure my oil. And it calls for 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. So I'm going to take my little liquid measuring cup. I'm going to find the 1/3, which is on this side. Remember, one side is divided by 4, the other side is divided by thirds. I'm going to get down at eye level. There you go. And I'm going to put this in the bowl. Okay. And the next thing it asks for is the butter, the eggs. We're going to use 2 eggs. Get my eggs over here. I'm going to break my eggs in a little bowl. So that there's 1 egg. So if I made a mistake, I wouldn't ruin everything. Like say I broke the egg and, or it was a bad egg or something like that, I wouldn't ruin all the other things that were in the recipe. Okay, I'll set my eggs aside. Put this over here for garbage. I'm going to get my butter. And a whisk. I'm going to whisk these eggs. I'm just gonna wait a second for the butter, the thing. With the eggs, and then I'm gonna add my vanilla flavoring. Vanilla flavoring, it is not as important as we think, but it does add a dimension of flavor. 1 teaspoon. Again, I'm gonna measure it to the side. Vanilla flavoring is another one of those things that smells so lovely, but when you try to eat it or taste it by itself without the sugar and stuff that goes in vanilla other recipes, it's not quite as good. Okay, and then I'm going to, last but not least, I'm gonna do milk. I actually brought milk from home. I didn't want to buy a whole gallon of milk for this, and so I just brought it in my cup. I'm going to use 1 1/4 cups. So I'm using a 2-cup measuring cup, and I'm going to find the 1 1/4. Is that what I said? 1 1/4. Yes, 1 1/4 mark. And okay, I found it, and I'm going to measure to that point at eye level. I love milk. I could just drink a glass. I actually probably drink a glass every day. Put this in here. Set this aside to be washed. Put my butter in here. I scrape it out, make sure I got every last little ball. So the butter adds flavor, and it adds a different kind of moisture. The oil adds more moisture. It doesn't really add flavor. Okay. Now let's go to page 2. Page 2 says, okay, we did that. We greased our thing. We have, okay, now we are going to add chocolate chips, and I'm going to add them now. Let me make sure. Yes, now. So we're going to add a cup of chocolate chips because I want to toss them in the the dry ingredients so that they're kind of coated, and if they get coated with the flour, that they don't sink to the bottom as bad. And that's true of like when you add blueberries and other things. So I'm going to stir them in here, kind of make sure they're tossed in the batter. I'm going to make a little hole in the middle, a whale. I am going to make sure my liquid mixture is mixed. 2 bowls, dry liquid, and I'm just going to dump that right in there. Okay? I am not going to mix it with the whisk because it's going to get too clumped up, but I am going to stir this. Sorry, let me wash my hands. I'm going to stir this until it's not, it's still going to be kind of lumpy. So the thing with muffins is you don't want to over stir them. So it's the hardest part about making quick breads for me is like, where's that sweet spot in between? So you want to make sure that everything is mixed, but it's not going to look smooth like a cake batter. Because this is a batter. We should have been over that with the notes before you saw that. It's a thick batter because the ratio was 3 cups of flour to 1 cup of liquid. But now remember, I'll figure it out. Because you got to add the fact that we had eggs in there too. Okay, so as I stir this, I'm kind of seeing some flour pockets at the bottom. If you understir it, the muffins will come out flat. If you overstir it, they become out like little gnomes or little dunce caps. So you want to find a spot in the middle. So once I get it mixed, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I stop. Just checking to make sure there's, okay. Now we're going to take our muffins, our muffin pan that's been lined with our paper muffins liners, and we're going to take there's a couple ways of doing this. You could use a cookie scoop. This is an ice cream scoop size. There's so many different sizes. You could use that, and what you do is you're going to still have to have something here to kind of wipe off the drips, and you fill it. You don't want to fill them to the top. Well, that's probably pretty close. Remember, it's easier to add some later than it is to take away. So I try to underfill them a little bit at the beginning. You're going to fill them all 12, and you want them as even as possible. Do not leave an empty space. It will cause a hot spot when they bake. Sometimes they kind of crinkle over. Okay, so we do this for the 12 muffins. If you have leftover batter, which you shouldn't, you could always add a little bit to some of the ones that you didn't fill up. Let me make sure. This does say 12 muffins, right? I'll look later. I'm pretty sure it's 12. So when we did this at class, usually everybody got 2 muffins because there was mostly 6 people in a group. When you get to do them at home, the only person you have to share with is your family, which can be annoying too, I'm sure. See, I'm trying not to get any little muffin batter on the actual outside of the cake pan because it'll burn when it bakes, and it makes it a little harder to clean. Now, these are the silicone muffin pans, so they're a little easier to. That's why I'm kind of bouncing, so that when it drips on top of another batter. And I do have a little bit left over. There, I'm bouncing. I might have used extra large eggs instead of regular eggs, I don't remember. There's a couple that I can add a little bit to. Not a lot. Because they will get bigger. See, maybe this one. We'll see how they look when they come out. It's been a while since I made these. But I know you shouldn't overfill them, but I guess we can fill them to the top here. Now, the batter is yummy. But I will tell you, remember, there are raw eggs in this batter. So you don't want to sit there and eat this. And if you do get sick, well, you knew it. I warned you. And if you want to, you could actually add some more chocolate chips on top. But I'm not going to. I think I got them out as full as I can get them, okay? So now, I'm going to take a napkin. Well, I don't have a napkin, so I'll just take this towel. And I'm gonna try to wipe off the parts that I dribbled. If you don't have a cookie scoop, you could use a 1/4 measuring cup. Uh-oh. So these are gonna bake for about, it says here, 20 minutes. And you can touch them and they will like spring back. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop the video and then I'm just gonna leave everything here. So when I come back, you actually get to see me take them out of the oven, hopefully. Okay, so we're gonna put it in the oven. I'm going to put them in the middle of the oven. Well, the rack that's in the middle, if you can see it. And make sure you place it with both hands so that you don't lose it. I'm gonna put my timer on for 20 minutes. And I'm gonna hit start. And I am going to now go start my first period class.